France, a nation known for its rich history, vibrant culture, and powerful influence in Europe, now finds itself at a crossroads. The country is once again facing a major political crisis, one that has sent shockwaves through both its own society and the wider European community. On September 8, 2025, the government led by Prime Minister François Bayrou collapsed dramatically after losing a crucial confidence vote in the National Assembly, France's lower house of parliament. The defeat was not just a routine setback, it marked a turning point that exposed deep divisions within the country's political system. This is the third time in less than a year that a French prime minister has been forced out of office, a clear sign of just how unstable and unpredictable French politics have become. Each time, the government has struggled to hold together a fragile coalition, only to see it unravel under pressure. The root of the problem lies in the fractured parliament. Since the special election in 2024, no single party has managed to secure a clear majority. This has left France with a deeply divided National Assembly, where alliances shift constantly and no one group is able to take charge. As a result, the government is often paralyzed, unable to pass key legislation or make decisive moves. The immediate trigger for this latest crisis was a fierce battle over the national budget. The government proposed a series of tough spending cuts, hoping to address France's mounting public debt. But these measures proved deeply unpopular, sparking outrage among opposition parties and even some members of the ruling coalition. The failure to pass a budget has brought the machinery of government to a standstill. Essential funding for public services is now in limbo, and the uncertainty has left ordinary French citizens anxious about the future. The crisis has also raised alarms among France's European partners, who rely on the country's stability for the health of the entire European Union. President Emmanuel Macron now faces one of the toughest challenges of his presidency. He must quickly find a new prime minister capable of uniting a fractured parliament and restoring confidence in the government. The task is daunting, as political divisions run deep and public trust in leaders is at a low point. The decisions made in the coming days will not only shape the future of France, but also have a profound impact on its role within Europe. As the world watches, France stands at a pivotal moment with its political stability and international influence hanging in the balance. The collapse of the government began with a pivotal moment, a high-stakes confidence vote that would determine the fate of Prime Minister François Bayrou's administration. It was Bayrou himself who called for this vote, taking a bold risk in the hope of securing his government's future. By tying his government's survival to the controversial 2025 budget, Bayrou believed he could rally enough lawmakers to his side, forcing them to choose between supporting the budget or risking the government's collapse. But the opposition, made up of both far-left and far-right parties, saw this as a golden opportunity. They united in their desire to weaken President Macron's grip on power and bring down Bayrou's government. The atmosphere inside the National Assembly was electric with tension. Lawmakers from all sides debated fiercely, knowing that this vote was about much more than just the budget. It was a direct challenge to Macron's leadership and the government's legitimacy. When the votes were finally counted, the result was devastating for Bayrou: 364 against, only 194 in favor. The overwhelming defeat left him with no choice but to resign, marking a dramatic end to his short-lived government. Bayrou's gamble had failed. After less than 9 months in office, he was forced to step down, leaving the government in turmoil and the country facing uncertainty. The failed confidence vote exposed the deep divisions within French politics. With no party holding a clear majority, governing had become nearly impossible, and the rifts between lawmakers were more apparent than ever. As government officials quietly left the chamber, the sense of crisis was unmistakable. The benches that once held the nation's leaders now sat empty, a stark symbol of the instability gripping France. Outside, the National Assembly stood under a cloudy sky, the French flag waving as if in defiance of the political storm brewing within. The country was bracing itself for what would come next. The collapse of Bayrou's government was just the beginning. France's political crisis had only just begun, and the nation was about to enter a period of even greater uncertainty and upheaval. At the heart of the crisis was Bayrou's deeply unpopular 2025 budget, a plan that would soon become the center of heated national debate and public outrage. The proposal was not just another set of numbers, It was a bold attempt to confront a problem that had been growing for years, but which few politicians had dared to tackle head-on. France's public debt had soared to over 3.3 trillion euros, a staggering sum that represented 114% of the country's total economic output. This level of debt was not only a record for France, but also one of the highest in the European Union, raising alarms in Brussels and among international investors. The government faced mounting pressure to act, as the cost of borrowing rose and the risk of a financial crisis loomed ever larger. Bayrou's plan called for 44 billion euros in spending cuts, a drastic measure designed to bring the budget deficit closer to the limits set by EU rules. These cuts were not just numbers on a page. They meant real reductions in government programs, subsidies, and services that millions of French citizens relied on every day. The impact was immediate and widespread. Public services, from healthcare to education to transportation, faced deep reductions. The anger was palpable, with protests erupting outside government buildings and in the streets of Paris. People from all walks of life, students, workers, retirees, voiced their frustration, fearing that the cuts would erode the social safety net that had long been a point of national pride. Bayrou, however, remained resolute. He warned that ignoring the debt would threaten France's economic freedom and future, arguing that tough choices were necessary to avoid even greater pain down the road. In press conferences and speeches, he insisted that the country stood at a crossroads and that responsible leadership meant facing hard truths. Presenting the budget as a moment of truth, Bayrou framed the debate starkly. France could choose comfort and short-term relief, or it could choose survival and stability in the long run. The message was clear, but it was not one that many wanted to hear. For the opposition and many ordinary citizens, the cuts felt like an attack on the very foundation of France's social system. Social programs, pensions, and public sector jobs were all on the chopping block, sparking fierce debates in public squares and on television talk shows. The sense of injustice ran deep, as people questioned why they should bear the brunt of austerity. The budget quickly became politically toxic, uniting critics from both the left and the right. Lawmakers who might otherwise disagree on everything found common ground in their opposition to the cuts, and the government's support in Parliament began to crumble. As the days passed, it became clear that the government was losing the battle for public opinion and for votes. The failure to convince lawmakers and the public sealed the fate of Bayrou's budget, and with it, the government's credibility. In the end, the budget fight became the perfect weapon for opposition parties, who seized the moment to rally their supporters and challenge the government's authority, setting the stage for a new chapter in France's political crisis. The government's defeat was possible because of an unexpected team-up between far-right and far-left parties. Both sides saw a chance to weaken Macron and stop the unpopular budget, putting aside their differences for a shared goal. For the far-right, it was a move to force new elections. For the far-left, a stand against cutting public spending. Their combined opposition created a strong group that the minority government couldn't beat. With Bayrou's resignation, President Macron faces two tough choices. He can pick a new prime minister to try to form a government, but any candidate will face the same divided parliament. Or he can break up the National Assembly and call new elections, a risky move that could make his party even weaker. For now, Bayrou and his ministers will stay on in a temporary role, handling daily tasks but unable to make big decisions. Macron must talk to party leaders and think carefully about his options. Picking a new prime minister might only delay another crisis. Calling elections could give power to his opponents. France is in a difficult constitutional situation, with no easy way out. The fall of Bayrou's government has put President Macron into his deepest crisis yet. 3 prime ministers removed in a year show a presidency in trouble and a parliament that is stuck. Macron's middle ground group lost its majority in 2024, forcing him to ask for support from opposition parties who didn't want to help. His plans for the country are stopped, and his power is constantly being questioned. While he still has power over foreign policy, at home he seems more and more powerless. Every move risks more instability. Picking another middle ground person could fail, while reaching out to rivals could cost him his position. Macron's presidency is now about surviving, not making changes. Macron's immediate challenge is to find a new prime minister who can survive in a hostile parliament. He could look to the center-right, hoping to build a team with Les Républicains, or make a bold shift to the left for a unity government. Names like Sébastien Lecornu, Bruno Retailleau, and Olivier Faure are being talked about, but none guarantee stability. Any new leader will face the same parliamentary math that brought down Bayrou. Without a formal team-up, another minority government is likely and easily defeated. Opposition parties might prefer continued chaos, hoping for new elections. Finding someone willing to take on this almost impossible job is Macron's biggest challenge. The crisis isn't just political show, it affects daily life. When laws can't be passed, urgent issues like the cost of living, healthcare, and education are not dealt with. Uncertainty over the budget messes up public services and local projects. The instability hurts France's economy and reputation, making investors careful. France's weaker leadership comes at a crucial time for Europe, leaving a gap in EU decision-making. Macron's problems at home make him less influential abroad, making it harder to lead on the world stage. The effects of France's crisis are felt far beyond its borders. The collapse of Bayrou's government is a clear sign of France's deep political crisis. Macron's presidency is now about surviving, not making changes, with the country facing great uncertainty. The alliance of the far right and far left that brought down the government shows widespread unhappiness with the political system. The choices made now, picking a new prime minister or calling elections, will shape France's future and its role in Europe. The country's stability, public services, and international standing are all at risk. France is on a political roller coaster, and no one knows where it will stop.